What's up, everybody? It's Brandon. I'm back with another knee-jerk reaction review, and this one's a special one because this is a group of guys, at least a group of guys that made this movie we had on the podcast when we were doing those earlier interviews. It was Chris Roselli, Brian Enright, and Rich Hill. Chris was the director of the movie. Brian Enright was one of the main stars of the movie, and Rich Hill was on the makeup effects. That movie, people, is Hideout. Hideout is a movie that I was waiting. Ever since that interview, I was really curious as to what would happen, how this movie would go, because the trailer immediately pulled me in. And finding out that I could have these guys on the show only made it more interesting as I even became, I became friends with these guys, not just on Facebook. I've talked to them multiple times. I've gotten to kind of know who they are and their personalities, which only adds to it. You know what I mean? Because you can look at a movie and you don't really know the people and you're excited, but when you're looking at a movie and you're like, oh, Chris directed this. Oh, Brian, I've kind of gotten to know him. We have similar tastes in movies, whether it be the action genre, like them old school Chuck Norris movies, the old school horror movies. He's a big fan of demons. I am also a big fan of demons. Rich Hill, hearing his backstory on how he was just doing makeup for Halloween, and then it became a thing that he was really passionate about and kept doing. And hearing those backstories and really getting to know them, not on some DVD commentary, you know what I mean? But in real fucking life. Well, real life, Facebook, whatever. And now this movie set for a release date of November 9th. Cannot spoil anything. And boy, oh boy, am I in for it, because there's so much to this movie that you just need to walk in and find out. But I believe I can sell the vibes and overall feels of the movie to the best of my ability for all of y'all that are interested in seeing this movie. Not only as just people that really wanted to see it from the get-go, but everybody that's really kind of jumped on the campaign through being fans of our show. So was Hideout worth the wait? Did it deliver? I'm going to tell you, yes, it did. And this is why, all while talking around it. Let me just say this much. This is a lower budgeted film. I knew that going in, and I was wondering, when I do lower budgeted films, I kind of have an overall grade of how I felt, but also I take into consideration the lower budget, the things they have to make up for. Let me just tell you this. This movie is a masterclass in maximizing your budget. Yes, I said it. Chris really has a firm grasp on what he wants here as a director. You can tell that every scene is very particular. You see a lot of these lower budget films that are just cash grabs or just cheap blood effects, all this just so you can make some money. Chris definitely had a fucking image here, and he fucking put that shit on paper, and it fucking fleshed out on screen like it was nothing. Overall, the acting in general, very, very good, especially for these kind of films. I can't tell you all the shitty performances I've seen in low-budget films. If you're a big horror fan like myself, you know that. Even in bigger budget films, you get that to a degree, because they kind of write it off like, oh, it's a horror film, everybody just wants to see the blood and guts. No, they actually take time here. And I'll say this much about the acting. Everybody did good. I thought Reed was a very good character. I thought Sarah was a very good character. And then Brian, since I know him, watching him as Kyle, wrote down his name. Actually, I'm a little more prepared for this review. At least I try to be. Him as Kyle, I thought he was great, which was even more interesting since I've gotten to know Brian and knowing who he is. He's just the nicest human being on earth. And watching him kind of transform into this robber that is put in this situation, and you see him kind of uptick it at times, you're like, okay, I can see the transformation. Since I know Brian, I'm like, this dude's really all in on this role, and I was all the more proud of him for it. But honestly, man, if I gotta say standout, I'm sorry, Brian. I'm sorry, the guy that played Reed. I'm sorry, the girl that played Sarah. You all killed it. I'm giving y'all's flowers. You did such a damn good job, but I've got to give my biggest hats off to Rose. The girl that played Rose really stole the show, I think, the most for me, because she was so subtle with how creepy she was. She was just, I don't even know a better way to explain it. She was just flat out creepy without even trying to be. She just has those creepy eyes, very attractive woman, but you're also looking at her and you're like, you can tell from the jump, even though, there's that front, because I can give that much away, I would assume. that you see in the trailer. You got these robbers, you're wondering what's going to happen. They not break into this house, they go into this house, and the homeowners appear normal, but there's a little more under the surface, which we will not dive into. But you do know that there is something a little more under the surface. And when you're watching this movie, the way especially Rose carries this out, it's in like the smallest little details, but there's something behind those eyes. There's something in her subtleness. There's something in the way she presents things that lets you know, like, is there an ulterior motive there? Like, I'm feeling like there might be. And when you're watching her in this movie, there's even like a scene towards the beginning of the movie. I won't say exactly what it is, but she says something that's kind of like, okay, you're on some other shit. As the viewer, you're like, you're giving it away right now. Good Lord. I expected them to kind of drag this out and, kind of dangle that carrot where you're kind of reaching for it, but you won't get there to the end. But as soon as she does that, she finds a perfect way to cover up what she said and kind of dial it back. And you as a viewer are like, okay, we're not putting this on Front Street. And that is what the movie does so well. It is such a slow build. It takes its time in finding these little pieces and peeling back little things. That's why it's so hard for me in a way to do this review, because I can't even give you anything, because each step of the way they're revealing things. It's so carefully constructed in how they slowly are like, here's this. Didn't even have to add this, but here's this. Between relationships, even between the guys and gal, I should say, that come into this house, the robbers, the initial, what you feel are the bad guys in the movie, how it's played out, you're looking at it and you're like, man, like, these guys, like, there's a balance to like how they come across. Like, they might seem like this one second, they might seem like that the next second. There is a good balance to that. And they're not just flat out like angry, rah, 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 we're going to kill you, necessarily robbers. Like, they are people that really have, like, they take the time to flesh them out. You get to know them as the situation goes along. Now, you got a lot of movies where they just throw you into the thick of it and you never really get any story, and then it's over. And then you get movies that take way too long to build it up. And then you get movies like Hideout, where they can throw you into the fire right away, but they can also find a way to kind of flesh out their characters while they're going through all their trials and tribulations and not be boring for a second. This movie is a little bit longer than I thought it would be. For some reason, I thought it'd be like an in and out kind of horror movie, but again, that's how they flesh out everybody. It's not just this boom, 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 boom starts and then it's over. Before you know it, because they flesh those people out, and because it's not boring, they find a way to cram all this into a little bit longer of a runtime. I don't know if I can reveal what that runtime is. I mean, I will say it's not like it's fucking Braveheart. It's not like, obviously it's not Braveheart, but if you had the old VHS, it wouldn't have 2 tapes. But it's a little bit longer than I thought. But that runtime is warranted because of the way they piece everything together so well. The subtleties and how, I guess, the creative decisions that I'd say Chris made with, like, it's not just in your face. There's little things where down to like a girl like tapping on a glass. I feel like I can give that away. That's a very marginal thing, but it's these marginal things that add up to make something big by the end, when everything is starting to unfold before your eyes. Everything's aligning and everything's so crazy. And now I say tapping on a glass, like, what does that mean? I mean, just showing the characters anxious without her coming flat out or him coming flat out and being like, I'm anxious right now. No, it's like little things like, okay, like she's kind of tripping. It's like little minor details like that, like I said, that add up, that's done so well here. And the overall cinematography, just the look, the way it's shot, again, maximizing its budget, but also the like choices of the shots, like where they go a little lower with the shot or a little higher, or the way he would direct a character, or maybe they were doing it, on the fly as an actor. I obviously don't have inside information on that, but like the choices, the offbeat music at times. That's something I really complimented Chris on. He added in like some offbeat, weird music kind of in the trailer that was like, I love that shit, where it's like, this doesn't seem to fit with the chaos around it, but somehow or another, it just vibes very fucking well. When you're watching the movie, there's a couple scenes like that too. The music in general really hits you over the head and you're like, damn, dude, like this is very powerfully done music. It complements the scene very well. It's creepy. It gets you the tension dialed up. It really nails it. But there's also, just like in that trailer, a couple scenes where you're like, why does this go so well with this? And that's like my favorite fucking thing. There's nothing I like more in a horror movie than when you're like, why does this work with this scene? This song sounds harmless, and everything that's going on the screen right now is far from harmless. That is what this movie does so well. Again, just so good at the little details that make up for so much more. And that is so huge in a movie that is admittedly lower budget. And overall, man, this movie it kind of blew me away. I'm not just saying this because I've kind of became friends with these guys. We had them on the show, and they're really cool, down-to-earth people, but they killed it. I'm a straight shooter, man. I will flat out tell you if someone's like, okay, yeah, like I was a little let down, guys. Like, I mean, it wasn't bad. You got to take all things in consideration, but it actually surprised me with how good it is. I think a lot of y'all are in for a really big treat in this Hideout movie. And dude, Rich, you killed it with the blood and gore. Once this thing does finally ratchet up, there's a few scenes along the way. You do get pieces of that, but once it ratchets up, you do see some dark, fucked up shit. The reveal at the end, when you finally get like, okay, this is exactly what is going on, it's awesome. It's got a little bit of cabin fever, not the movie cabin fever being stuck in one place, but it's also, you know, a smidgen, just a smidgen of body horror going on there. It's a little bit of everything, and also a little bit of drama in between there, like I said, with the acting and building of the characters. Hideout as a movie, like this year, just as a flat out movie, this is like a 7.7 out of 10. It's borderline great. But as a low budget film, if you're into low budget films trying to find that gem, this movie is like a 9+. I'd give it like a 9.2. Grading it on those merits, because this shit is way better than it has any right to be. But given who you got behind the camera and behind everything else that plays out in this movie, down to the editing, everything, it is really, really, really fucking good. And I can honestly say all these guys, not just the people I've met, but everybody, they have a bright career. They have a bright future ahead of them. You got to look out for these people. This is the stepping stone, but this could build to something more. Just imagine what they could do with a bigger budget and the ideas flowing, more time to shoot, everything across the board. I am looking forward to what you're doing, guys. And hey, man, y'all surprised me, even better than I expected. Very excited for what's to come from you guys. Yeah, fuck yeah, go see fucking Hideout. It's going to be on Amazon, iTunes, Google Play, and other platforms November 9th. Very pleased with how this turned out, and I'm sure y'all are too. Nothing to be worried about, guys. Y'all killed it. And that's a Brandon guarantee. Love y'all, man. Tune in. See it.